Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you're new here, my name is Marc-Anthony. I'm one of the co-founders here at scalingwebinars.io. In today's video, I'm going to talk about exactly how you can book 10 plus qualified sales calls every single day using webinars. So if you're new here, definitely hit that subscribe button, right? And you're gonna get hit with a whole lot of value in today's video. I've helped many online coaches and course creators just like you generate 10 qualified sales calls every single day and scale their business past $100,000 per month. But what if I told you it's all thanks to this exact webinar funnel that's made my clients over $2 million in sales for coaches and consultants? So before we get into it, a lot of people ask, why not just use VSLs? And before I can break down the KPIs to track and show you actually how the webinar funnel works, you need to understand why we even run webinar funnels in the first place. So VSLs used to be the go-to method for selling courses and info products. So a 10 to 30 minute video showing social proof, call to action, and boom, sales would flood your pipeline, but times have now changed. VSLs are getting weaker and weaker, and people have seen the formula way too many times. VSLs are one-sided and they get ignored, and it's harder to handle objections with your VSLs. Also consider the time that we're in, right? We're in a trust economy. People just don't trust coaches, info products. They think they're all scams, okay? So instead of relying on VSLs, here's why I use webinars. So VSLs typically, right? They have a timeline of engagement, okay? So a VSL's timeline of engagement is, of course, a lot of people at the first top 5-10 minutes of the VSL, they watch the entire thing. But the engagement drops off until the call to action. So if you've been using anything like Wistia or Vimeo, then you've seen this chart, okay? So what usually starts at 80% of viewers who see the first 5 to 10 minutes of your video, right? It drops off to about 20%. Or even 10% only see the call to action, which means that 60 to 70% of people never even listen to your offer, okay? This is why VSLs just don't work anymore. The last thing is that VSLs don't convert at a higher rate than webinars. At times, more people will convert on your live webinar than a VSL. Now, the reason for that is purely because of trust, like I just outlined, okay? So a webinar is usually just a 60 to 90 minute presentation, okay? During this time, you can obviously handle objections, talk through to with your audience about your offer, who you are, and why you're the best fit for the thing that will solve their problems, okay? Now, with the VSL, which is just usually between, even I've seen VSLs as low as 5 minutes, all the way to about 30 minutes is the sweet spot for VSL, okay? During that time, it's very difficult to take a stranger from, hey, I don't know who you are, to, hey, now I trust you in order to speak with you and your team and to purchase exactly what you have to sell, okay? Which is why a webinar converts typically between 3 to 5x stronger, right, at a stronger rate than a VSL. Now you understand exactly why you should run webinars and why webinars are better than VSLs, all right? Just running a webinar to say you ran one isn't enough though. If you don't track the right KPIs, you'll burn cash like we've done in the past, especially if you're running ads. So let's talk about exactly how you could avoid the common mistakes that I did and track your numbers correctly. To hit 10 calls per day and close 30% of traffic, you need to optimize for 3 key metrics in your webinar funnel. Before I tell you those metrics, let me tell you a quick story about one of our clients who we didn't track the numbers accurately and ended up losing money on a launch, okay? So as I mentioned previously, there's 3 key metrics that you have to track with your webinar, all right? And if one of these metrics are off, you're gonna lose a lot of money. So we had a client, let's call the client John, all right? And he had a trading coaching program. So he was teaching people how to trade options. We didn't accurately track these 3 metrics for his webinar funnel. And because of that, we underestimated how many people we were actually going to drive inside of the room via paid ads and organic traffic. And because of that, we undershot our numbers and we ended up losing thousands of dollars, okay? Because I don't want that to happen to you, I'm going to run through the key 3 indicators you need to track throughout your webinar funnel. So the first indicator is show rate, okay? And show rate is just the amount of people who actually show up for your webinar, okay? So show rate should be no less than 20%, okay? Usually you could get 20% depending on if you're selling a high ticket product, all right? But you want to get this number as close to 30% as possible, okay? Now, the next number that you're going to want to track is registration rate, okay? So this should be about 25%, which means 25% of the traffic that hits your page should give you their name, email, and their phone number to sign up for your webinar, all right? Now, the very last metric that you're gonna wanna track is conversion rate. And this metric is fluid, depending on if you're selling a product on the webinar or if you're just booking in a call, okay? For the purposes of this video, we're going to act as if you're going to be scheduling a call on your webinar, all right? For this metric, you wanna aim for about 15%, really 10 to 15% minimum of live attendees inside of day of a webinar should be booking in a call on your team, okay? Now let's run through some quick math about what we should have done for that client and what you should be doing for each one of your webinars in order for you to make the most amount of money possible, all right? So let's say that you're running Facebook ads, okay? Let's say that you're spending $5,000 on Facebook ads for your webinar. And these $5,000, you generate a $3 cost per click. So it costs someone $3 to click on your ad to see your webinar, all right? So you generate 1,500 clicks. So 5,000 divided by 3 is 1,600 people. 25% of those people actually register for your webinar, all right? 400 people who register for your webinar, all right? Now, show rate. Out of this number, we want 20% of people minimum to actually show up to your webinar live. So 20% of 400, that means 100 live people to attend your webinar. Now, out of these 100 people, 10% of the minimum should be booking in a call with your team. But let's say you're working with us. 15% of these people will be booking in a call. That's 15 calls booked. Out of 15 calls booked, 70% of these people will show to your call. So that's 12 calls. 70% will show up to your sales call. And out of these 12 calls, 30% minimum should close. Usually for our clients, because of how well nurtured all these leads were on the webinar, you can see up above at least 40% of people actually closing from the webinar. But let's say it's 30%, which means you get 4 deals from one webinar. And let's say that your product was $3,000, all right? 4 times 3,000 is $12,000, all right? Spending $5,000 in the beginning for ads. All right, so that's about a 2.2 or 3x return on ad spend when you track your numbers correctly. But if you weren't tracking any of these numbers, then you would have no idea about the end result, okay? So this is a big reason why you actually need to track your numbers when you're running your webinar. Registration rate should be at least 25% to recap. Show rate should be at least 20%. And your conversion rate on the webinar, how many people actually book in a call, should be at least 10 to 15% as well. If you're getting value so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button because I'm gonna be dropping videos like this weekly on you taking your business as a coach, creator, or consultant and scaling it past $100,000 per month with webinars and info products. Also, my team and I recently did a launch and collected $263,000 for a brand new product with $0 in ad spend. So if you're interested in working with us, make sure to click that first link below, watch that video, and fill out the short application after that. So with that being said, let me show you a true visualization of this funnel and how you can apply it in your business. It's the same exact funnel that we've used to help scale our top 1% of education company clients to past $100,000 per month and making 7 figures per year. Before I get into that, I want to quickly share my biggest mistakes I made running webinars so you don't make those same mistakes as well. So mistake number 1, I mentioned it in the past, is just not tracking your numbers correctly, okay? So mistake number 1, know your numbers. This is something I see in so many businesses that we come across. No one knows their numbers. So you should know every single metric that's across your funnel, from your registration rate, to your show rate, to your conversion rate, to your close rate, to the cash that you collect on the phone, which is a very underrated metric that no one tracks, by the way. The cash that you collect on the phone is so important to see how much money you're truly making, not revenue, cash that you collect on the phone. That's mistake number 1, know your numbers. Mistake number 2, this is an interesting one that we kind of just found out, is scaling ads too far out. So what does that mean? When running webinars, usually what people do is it's about a 7 or 14 day campaign period where they're spending on ads for the webinar. So let's say the webinar is on Sunday and I start the ad spend on Monday. So what most people will do is they'll evenly distribute ad spend throughout that 7-day campaign period. But what we've seen is that drastically decreases the amount of people that actually show up to your webinar, because you have to think all those people who registered 6 or 7 days prior, even if you send them emails, even if you send them texts, they're still busy and they're still going to forget. And by that time, people don't even remember what they had for lunch. You think they're gonna remember showing up to your webinar? Probably not. So this is what we do instead. So we scale the biggest portion of our ad spend within the last 24 to 48 hours. So let's call it 48 hours turbo spend. So this is where we will spend 60 to 70% of the entire campaign budget within a 24 to 48 hour period. That way we've seen the most people will actually attend your webinar because the most people signed up within that period. So that's some alpha for you guys that you may not have heard online before. Make sure that you don't scale your ads too far out, okay? The very last mistake that I don't want you to make on your webinars is something I call engagement bait. What does this mean? So during your webinars, this is how you know whether you have a good or a bad webinar, is how many times people interact or comment inside of the chat during your webinar. So what a lot of people make the mistake of doing throughout their webinar is they treat the webinar just like a presentation, just like they're making a YouTube video or an IG video where someone is not physically live on the other side of the screen watching you. So you won't use engagement bait during your webinar, such as type a 1 in the chat if you're still with me, type a 2 in the chat if this sounds like you, type a 3 in the chat if X, Y, and Z, okay? Getting people to engage with you on your webinar is so important. During the time where it's fit for you to actually pitch during the very end of your webinar, you've had all these people that you've baited with engagement that at the end of the webinar, now they're very excited in order to work with you and in order to buy your product, okay? This is another thing as well. Don't turn off the chat, because I see a lot of people turn off chats during their webinar. Don't turn off the chat. Let people engage and use engagement bait throughout the entire webinar. Now let's run through the webinar in action, all right? So I'm gonna draw it on my board. So step number 1 is what you're gonna wanna create is a high converting webinar registration page, all right? So as we talked about before, this page needs to be converting at about 25%, all right? So all traffic from either Facebook or Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, your email list is diverted all the way to this page, okay? Now, this page, what we like to use is 3 different elements on this page and every single page that we use for the webinar, okay? 1 is promise. So what's the promise that someone is gonna get once they registered for your webinar? What's the result that they're gonna leave with, all right? 2 is proof. What is the proof that you've done this before? This could be a biography about you. This could be your own results, or you could showcase student results as well. And number 3, what I like to do is some sort of timer or some sort of like dates on the webinar. That just makes it feel like it's happening in real time, and people hate pre-recorded or automated webinars nowadays, right? So I love to include the date and the time that it's happening. Okay, date and time. These 3 elements was what we use in every single webinar registration page and allows us to at least convert 25% of traffic into a registrant. So after this page, then someone's gonna hit something called the confirmation page, okay? The confirmation page is one of the biggest needle movers that you can use in order to increase the number of people who actually show up to your webinar, all right? So on this confirmation page, what you're gonna have is 3 elements again. You're gonna have a mini VSL that 1 compliments them on taking the action that you wanted them to take, which was registering for the webinar. So congratulate them on registering for the webinar and give them the promise again, and then show them proof, tell them the time and date. Then after that, what you're going to do is paint the picture, the roadmap of what's going to happen next. So we give them the roadmap. Now, all the roadmap is just you telling them the next steps that are going to happen, such as you're going to be receiving emails and texts from my team. You're going to be, set videos and stuff to watch before the webinar. Make sure that you're watching all these things so that you can get a head start before everyone else. Those are some things that you're going to say inside of the VSL to give the roadmap. And at the very end, what we love to do nowadays is if you have a YouTube channel, give them some homework before the webinar and send them to a very specific YouTube video. This could be a YouTube video really explaining more about you and your story, educating them more on the promise of exactly what you teach, or showing social proof. One of those 3 elements is what we like to typically throw on this confirmation page. After someone hits this confirmation page, is they're gonna receive a series of emails and texts, okay? So this email sequence that they receive, we didn't coin this. One of our mentors, shout out to Maciek, he named this the indoctrination sequence. So you're literally going to brainwash them into 1, showing up, 2, believing that you are the kind of person that can fix their problems, and 3, showing them social proof. Because in order for someone to buy in your webinar, they need to be sold on 3 things. They need to be sold on you. So are you the person that can fix their problems? They need to be sold on the vehicle. In my case, I'm selling you on why the webinar is the perfect vehicle for you to make $100,000 per month, all right? And the 3rd thing that they need to be sold on is themselves, okay? Now this is the most powerful and the hardest one to sell someone on. However, it makes the biggest difference. If you can sell someone on themselves, meaning that you're capable of doing this, you're capable of getting to this promise, right? You're capable of getting the same results that all these people have with these proof elements, then someone will buy on your webinar. And you can do all of this through the indoctrination email sequence. It's usually a sequence of 6 or 7 emails that we send to people before the webinar. Next, they're gonna receive a series of text messages before the webinar. So within these text messages, you're gonna ask people to engage with you. This is more engagement bait, kind of what we talked about, okay? You're gonna ask them the reasons that they signed up for the webinar. You're gonna ask them what are they hoping to get from the webinar. You're gonna ask them what are the challenges that they're currently facing. And you know what's funny? All of these things and all of these answers that you're gathering from people before the webinar, you're actually gonna use it on the webinar, which is our next thing, the webinar. point. So after they register, they hit the confirmation page. You're selling them on you, the vehicle, themselves via email and text. Then it's time for the actual webinar. I could go on and on about how to structure a webinar. This would be an entire hour-long video, okay? But I'm gonna give you the way that we break our webinars into 3 sections, okay? We break them down into the introduction, the content, which is what you're gonna teach, the transition, and the close, okay? Shout out to Jason Fledlin. He is one of the, he coined this entire framework, right? And we put our own spin on it as well. So the introduction of your webinar is just you not really talking so much about yourselves, but why they should care. Why should they spend 60 to 90 minutes with you in order for them to solve this problem, okay? And usually the introduction is when you bring them back to the promise, you show them more proof, and you sell them on you. This is when you start to do that. Now, during the content section is when you're actually teaching them. You're selling them on the vehicle. Why is this thing, right? In my case, why is the webinar the best vehicle in order for you to use to get to $100,000 per month with your coaching or consulting business? That's what you do during the content section, all right? You're selling them on the vehicle. During the transition, you're bringing up everything that you just told them in the content section in 60 seconds, all right? Because most people, they just go from intro content to close. But this makes the audience feel kind of betrayed because you're like a rug pulling them a little bit, right? So you went from teaching them, then you went from pitching them, which is exactly why we like to break up that close with the transition so that it's a little bit of a better sales process for the audience watching, all right? Then obviously the close is when you pitch your product. Again, you go back to the promise, you go back to the proof, you show a lot of proof, and by then they should be sold on you and the vehicle. During the close, you sell themselves that you're the type of person who can actually do this. Now, after the webinar ends, then we send them to a very specific replay page, to the replay page. I see a lot of people, they send the replay page out, but it's not on a dialed in page, okay? You should not be sending the replay page on GoToWebinar or Webinar Jam or Zoom. You should actually make an actual page, and here's why. All right, these are the elements that you're gonna put on the replay page. First, you're gonna put a timer on the page, okay? That you have to finish watching this webinar, right? Max 72 hours after the webinar ends. So you give them 72 hours to watch the replay, or the replay's gone forever. After that, you have specific timestamps within the video that they can scrub towards. Because you have to think, if someone is coming to the replay, there may be specific things that they want to consume during the webinar, and they don't want to watch the entire thing. So put specific timestamps throughout the webinar that are the most impactful and important things for them to watch, for them to scrub through and watch those important parts, okay? Then you're going to hide the call to action button on your page by a timer of at least 10 to 15 minutes. You can split test this to see which one you get the higher conversions. We like to do 10 to 15 minutes. Within this 10 to 15 minute period, then you're going to reveal a call to action button. This call to action can either take them to schedule a call with your team, go through an application, or buy the product directly on this page. Now, these are all the steps that you need for a very high converting webinar funnel. So this is exactly the same funnel that took our clients past $100,000 per month. And we used this funnel to collect $263,000 in 10 days with 0 ad spend. So thanks for watching this entire video. I hope you got a lot of value out of it. How to add 10 plus qualified sales calls on your calendar every single day using the webinar, and scaling your webinars in your business past $100,000 per month using this exact webinar system. So if you're a coach, creator, or consultant, and you want to scale your business past $100,000 per month, and you think that webinars may be the best vehicle in order for you to do this, and you want our help, my team's help, right, in order to build this entire process out for you and your team, what I want you to do is click the first link down below and schedule a time to speak with our team, and watch that video on the next page and see all the testimonials of me and my team and exactly what we've done for our clients. All right, I thank you guys for watching this video. Love you guys. Peace.